welcome. And I just thank you all. Thank you for working with struggling readers. Why are we all here tonight? As you know, an alarming number of students are struggling readers. Okay, what is causing that? So this whole webinar is all about solving that problem. But first, let me just tell you who I am and how did I come up with is it the solution, a solution? Okay, first of all, my name is Linda Silbert, PhD in educational counseling. I spent over 50 years of research and working directly with struggling readers, began as a third grade teacher, and then got most of my master's in reading, and then moved. And when I went back, found out they would only accept 6 credits. So at that point, I had been working with so many struggling readers for so many years, I realized a lot of this isn't just the reading. There's other things involved, and I ended up getting the master's in counseling, okay, and then continue for the PhD in educational counseling. My husband and I also own a tutoring and test prep company. So for years and years and years, over 40 years, we have worked directly with these children. We had the luxury of working with one at a time. Working in a classroom is very different. But by having just a few or one at a time really helps. And we also did a huge amount of research in our book, Why Bad Grades Happen to Good Kids. Because as one little boy sat here one day and I'm showing the mom the book and he says, I'm a good kid. She said, I never told you you're not. He says, yeah, but you keep saying I'm lazy. And she said, but no, you're not really lazy. And I mean, the kids pick up on every word we say, the eyebrow going up, no matter what it is, and they pick up on it. And he wasn't the only child that ever said that. He said, I'm a good kid. And that's critical to make them feel that you're their significant other, mom, dad, teachers, that's the order goes in, that significant other thinks so much of them. That is how people get self-esteem. How do you perceive? It's a perception. How your significant others perceive you. I did my entire doctoral dissertation on what creates self-esteem in children. And of course, it ended up going into teenagers and adults. Everyone thinks if you're a great baseball player, you're a great artist, that's going to give you the self-esteem. The self-esteem comes from a perception. You know yourself, walk into a room, and you think everyone in that room thinks you're just great. You're going to feel like God. You walk into a room where you think, oh my God, they're all wearing black shoes and I'm wearing brown. And you just want to leave. You don't want to be there. Self-esteem can go up and down depending who you're with. But a child's self-esteem is based on how they perceive mom, number one. Dad is very close second. Grandma, grandpa, siblings, the family members, teachers. And teachers, when I'm in a room, years ago, I'd be giving a keynote or something with hundreds of teachers, and the whole room would just go, I mean, you don't realize how important you are. That teacher thinks I'm really smart. That teacher really likes me. Critical. So we learned a lot of that with why bad grades happen to good kids. And over the 50 years, by working with these reading students who are struggling, I learned a lot. And here's basically what I learned. There's many reasons why kids struggle. Number one, first bullet, dyslexia. But that only accounts for 1 in 5. So why are these other kids struggling? Okay, right now, there's no doubt lingering COVID effects. There are kids right now in middle school and 5th grade, 6th grade that should have had remedial reading. They needed to be in tier 2, tier 3. Even if they went back to school, everybody's wearing masks. What is reading? Reading's put a sound with an image. They didn't hear the sound. So the kids who are struggling, COVID made it so much worse. And these poor kids are sentenced for life unless there's some intervention here for them. Next bullet, phonics was not emphasized in the reading program the schools were using. I don't want to mention anyone in particular, but I'm not against any reading program. It's whatever that child needs. And the majority of students need phonics, and especially the struggling readers. Next bullet, attentional issues. And we all know, we've worked with kids where they're writing and they're filling in workbooks. Their mind is some other place, and they're not focusing on what they're doing. Weak memories, short or long term, could be either way, could be both. There are children, when I say to the parents, okay, it's a reading, or talk to the teachers, is it also math? It is also, yeah, they can't remember. And all that means is they need more practice, more, and little bits at a time. 3 to 4 chunks of information at a time. That's it. Sometimes we give too much, even teaching reading, tiny bits at a time, over and over again. Hearing or language challenges. I just worked with a little girl for 3 years and begged the mother, please take her to an audiologist. Please take her to a speech therapist. This is not just reading. And she had hearing loss, and people didn't pick it up. Poor attendance. I just worked with a school out in LA all year, and they implemented our entire program, along with the actual structured literacy program they were using. I kept saying, but now what happened to so-and-so? And the reading teacher would say to me, well, he hasn't been in school for a week, 2 weeks. The attendance, and I worked with here in Manhattan, in the city, the attendance becomes a problem. English language learners, another reason so many kids are struggling. We have a lot of where English is second language. This is hard for them to learn. Last one is lack of practice. And that's huge. They do not practice. Okay, question. If most schools now are using an OG structured literacy program that follows the science of reading, then why are so many students still struggling with reading? Okay, here's what I've come up with, just my own working with these individual kids and just looking into it. Why? Many reading programs do not address the student's specific needs. And I'll explain that in a few minutes and show you what I did for that. Well, actually, let me tell you now, the specific needs in order to read, and they need that phonics, they need that. I put together, which I'm going to show you on the next slide, I actually put together an entire assessment, beginning with the alphabet. It sounds so silly, but I don't care if they're in 8th grade, 10th grade, I begin with the alphabet. Because I've been here, as I said, way over 40 years, and I have had not the majority, but there are still students. I had a 10th grade boy. I got up to the letter W, and he goes to say it, and he goes, I never actually knew that letter. It's like, it says W, but there's no U's there. I don't see any U. So I have no idea what that is. Or what sound it made, he had no clue. So he's been going through school, and they're saying he needs remediation because you know yourselves as teachers, it's usually that test they give at the end of the year, which is usually comprehension. Well, they can't comprehend if they can't decode the words, and they're saying sound it out. Look at the picture. Well, they can't sound it out if they don't know the letters. I had an 8th grade boy. It was just before COVID hit. I was testing him, and I got up to the letter S. He goes, shh. So then I show him SH. He goes, shh. And I said, did someone in school ever mention to you that S is just, he goes, no, never heard of that. So he's sounding these things out incorrectly. So you must find out where are the gaps. Many, and most of these kids who are still struggling, there are gaps in them learning the actual phonemes. And secondly, anxiety. Every child I've worked with and every teacher tells me and every parent, the anxiety is so high. And so the child eventually shuts down. Many of you may know it. If you don't, when they've actually done research on the brain, and the messages go through the brain and they're connected by dendrites at the end of the neurons. We say the neurons of dendrites. They have kids and adults, they've done all these studies. When you show them something very scary, something, the dendrites shrink. And you know that feeling that all of a sudden you feel your mind goes blank and you tell everyone, don't bother me now. I can't even think straight. You can't until the dendrites connect again. I've taught this to every little child that has come to me. And one little girl sitting, she was 12. I'll never forget her. And I said to her, oh, we're going to do fractions today. And she goes, I think my dendrites just all shrunk. And she just sat there. She's, I can't think. I can't think at all. And I said, okay, you know what? My room's usually not that organized. Let's just go clean my room. And she said, okay. And then all of a sudden she said, I think I'm getting better because I've taught them to take deep breaths, to count. So they know what's happening. The anxiety is so high because they start to read, and every teacher and their parents, everyone is telling them, no, that's wrong, that's wrong. Sound it out. They don't know how. Next, it's attention. I mentioned that before. Some of the children, the attention is just not there. And you have to pull them back and you try to decide, is it ADHD? Is it dyslexia? Is it? Because you can't really tell. They're not focused. Next one is attendance, which I just mentioned. They're not there. And finally, most struggling readers don't practice. So even if they're in a structured literacy program, if the specific needs aren't met, the anxiety is high, the attention isn't there, and they're not in school, the attendance isn't there, and they don't practice, which the majority do not. I mean, in all reality, has anyone ever met a child who's struggling with reading and says, let's go home and practice? I think I really want to practice. At that point, it'd be frightening because, okay, what's wrong with this kid? They no less practice. The parents, they tell me, they say there's such crying and yelling and everything else going on. It's so unhealthy because it becomes such an issue. So the anxiety goes so high. By the way, I love acronyms. So this is NAAAP. NAP, if you want to remember what it is. The needs have to be met: anxiety, attention, attendance, practice. NAP. Okay, next. This is what I put together for the phonics assessment. You can all get this free right on our website at stronglearning.com. And you just download it. It's totally free. You can, and what it is, there's a student form and an examiner form. The examiner form, I keep saying we, my husband has worked with me. His degree's in physics, but he put all this stuff together on the computer. And so I think he could be teaching reading now. But there's an examiner and a font and the student. Once you get used to it, you may not need the examiner form. Just use the student. But if you're not sure of the sounds, we put words to represent each sound. So it's right there for you. So once okay, and then there's a video and there's the QR code that you just put your phone right there and it'll go right to the sounds. Okay, especially that we use it all over the country and people have different ways of saying things, but the sounds are right there for you. Okay, now this is how it works. Suppose you start actually with the alphabet. I actually begin with rhyming because if the child can't rhyme, that's one of the biggest clues that maybe it's dyslexia because they can't put those sounds together. So that's the only reason I put rhyming in. There's the alphabet, number 2. There then I go on to 3. There are your consonants. And what happens, you keep going. And if they're doing well, if they miss 1 or 2, like that boy who missed the W, I'm not going to take him in 10th grade and go back, start the alphabet. You just teach it to them. The boy who missed the S and the SH. Okay, teach it to them at that point. If you have a child who's just learning the language and they don't know most of the letters, you begin with the alphabet. Okay, here, let's say you got up to number 6, and it says, and it'll tell exactly what to do. Read the nonsense word as I point to it. And then you'll going to actually point to it on right here. You'll see number 6, the tish, the if, they're all nonsense words. Now, what you do is, if you go right to the left, it tells you, and you see we've made it large for you, go to the practice pack, go to the super deck, the card deck, go to the reading and writing practice workbook. We tell you exactly what to do. Okay, so now let's say you keep going and the child, whoops, let's go to this one. This is number 21. And you keep going and they have all the digraphs and they seem to know they are controlled, diphthongs, and suddenly you get here and they don't have the silent consonants. So you want to begin there because those are the gaps. If they don't know some of these phonics and phonemic patterns, they can't decode and they lose what's going on. Okay, and then it tells you, okay, they missed 3, 4 things on that line. So now you go directly to the little square on the left right there, and it tells you exactly where to go with the actual number for each book and each game. Now, I'm just going to throw this in because I can't resist. I've had so many children right through middle school, high school, especially the intermediate middle school kids, because they're not doing this anymore, phonics, and they don't even remember what vowels are. They don't, and they're still struggling, and they're still trying to figure out what is wrong with this child. So many of them don't know the vowels, and you've got to teach them the short and long vowels, and then you go to R control. Okay, I did this years ago, and it seems they learn the vowels, I mean, in less than a minute. You just say, I owe you money. And then I say to them, okay, tell back to me. They go, I owe you money. And then we start yelling, I owe you money. And they have I owe you. Now, within 15, 20 seconds, they have it, I owe you. And I say, put an AE in front of it. So they go, AE, I owe you. That's it. They have the vowels. Then go right to the short vowels right after that. Next, this is the whole program. You begin with the assessment. Then all it is, they're reading and writing, even though this is about reading we're doing today, but writing is critical when you're working with children to learn to read because it's multisensory. They have to write it. It's the encoding. Decoding is reading, encoding is spelling. It's writing it out. Then using these with your program in school, I've taught so many children how to read just with my own products. I haven't used anything else in years because this just works. You have right in those workbooks, you have the 5 pillars of reading. You have in the 5 pillars, you have your phonemic awareness, your phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, all right within these workbooks. If you're working on CVC or VCE, start using the card decks. And I'm going to show you those pretty soon. And so you don't have to finish the book before you start playing cards. And the cards are what the kids just love because they're playing, they're children. The weirdest thing is about these games, which I've told a million people. The kids leave, and I've been doing this for so many years, and I don't care if they're 10, 12. I say to them when they come in, when they're leaving and their parents are picking them up, I say, did we do any reading? And they go, no, we just played the whole time. And they really don't know. They don't realize. And one little boy said to me, I don't understand it, but I keep coming here and we never do reading. We just play. And somehow I'm starting to read. And which was like, because they don't realize what's happening here. Okay. We're going to go to the reading and writing practice workbooks. I have it A through E. The red book is A, the blue is E, is B, C, D, E, right to the end. Each workbook focuses on individual phonemes and phonetic patterns to help with decoding and encoding because they're writing activities. You need both. It's followed by a short story because you have to apply this. You have to apply the phonemes, followed by comprehension activities, and then followed by a short play, which is the story in script form that is just to improve fluency and confidence. Okay, that's the pattern on every single book. So here we have Book A is that includes your rhyming, alphabet, consonant sounds, consonant blends, and digraphs. CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant, and then 4 and 5 letter short vowel words. The next book B, you begin now with your long vowels, VCE, your vowel digraphs, your 2 sound consonant blends, R controlled vowels, and your diphthongs. Then you go to C, which is Y is a vowel, soft and hard C and G rule. The VC blends and endings, such as ing, ink, those blends, those endings in all the words, and the blends like ALL, ALK, OLD. That's all included in book C. Open and closed syllables and silent consonants. Book D now goes into intro to prefixes and suffixes, word endings, LE, shun and jun, and us, and then the endings sure and sure, the 3 and 5 syllable words, and the challenge words, which even goes now into book E. We actually even go into 5 and 6 syllable genius words, and more extensive into prefixes and then into suffixes. Because once the kids learn that, your prefixes and suffixes, once they can start understanding the vocabulary, it starts, because we have to start building that vocabulary. I know I always go off track with some stories, but I'll never forget. I was with this little boy he had a severe speech problem, severe, and with dyslexia. And I heard the doorbell one day, and I open it up, and there's Christopher. He was already driving. And he said to me, I was driving home from school, and somehow my car just came right here. And I just have to tell you, sure, TURE, shun, TION. And I said, oh my God, how much did we do that? And he couldn't stop laughing. He said, we played those games over and over. As of now, Christopher became an engineer. Francis, you want me to read this now? Yeah. Okay, hold on. Okay. Did you see the question if the materials can be adapted for 4th through 6th graders who are on the 1st through 3rd grade reading level? Absolutely. Yes. I have used it with adults for English as a second language. And years ago, when I was creating everything, I must tell you, I had a woman that called me one day. Her daughter was already married. She had one daughter. She said, I want to come into you. I know of you. I know you live here in our town. I never learned to read. And when I went to school, I was called Stupid Little Mary. And I don't know what's wrong with me. Could I come to you? And she said, I never let anyone know I couldn't read. And so I started working with her. Her husband came every session because she couldn't drive over because she was too nervous. She was already in her 50s. She started reading. And I said, Mary, you have something called dyslexia. She said, I quit school in 8th grade because she said they would call on me. So, okay, we'll call on Stupid Little Mary now. And it was a horrible, horrible story. But she actually called one day and she said, I'm applying for a job. I'm going to go to work. They hired her. She just loved it. And then called me one day, total panic. She said, they want me to go into the city with the buyer to pick clothes and they want to advance me. And I said, and we came up with all these mnemonic things, but she learned how to read. She learned. So at any age. And is it simple? Is it too easy? Is it too immature for these kids? They all love it. They love the stories. And they actually start coming up with their own stories when they're older. They start creating them. If you're struggling with something, you don't want anything hard. You want it easy. You want to be able to get it right. I mean, picture yourself learning a new language. It's very hard, and you feel you're so scared. And the fear, this is a big deal to anyone who's struggling, and it is a big deal. I always begin with all these words and then other words, names, and places. We go through everything. Let me go. Here we go. Then after you read the story, you see it says, do you remember? Reading comprehension. And it was Tiger's boat was made out of. And I usually, there I put soup and soap because there were two phonemic patterns. Thurman was happy, sad. I give different, but only four. I only give four questions. And I tell them they can look back. It's something else that's great. After reading a story with children, I say to them, I'm going to give you questions. Do you want to test me? And they go, what do you mean? I say, you write out one or two questions, and let me see if I can get the answer. These are children with dyslexia, dysgraphia. They will write out those questions so fast. They're excited, and I say, can I look back? And they're really pretty mean. At that point, they go, no, you can't go back. And then without fail, they'll correct me. I usually get everything wrong, and they have to correct it. And I always give them a red pen, and they put a big 0, or they'll put a big 20. They'll make up these numbers. And I'll go, oh, and they say, you just have to practice. And they're helping me to make me feel better. Always give them a chance to be the teacher. Give them a chance to show that they know what they're doing. And then I always throw in, do you know? Not just do you remember? And it'll go into a math question. It may go into like number 3 into do you know? Let's means let us or let you. The word sailboat is a compound word, a contraction. Number 1, the next boat race would be next week, which means it will be in 5 days or 7 days. I throw in other subjects. Okay, now go to Tiger Wants a Luge. That is in my C and G phonemic group of stories and patterns. Okay, this is under C and G. Here I have children draw. Comprehension is wonderful when they can draw. And I have them do stick figures because many children, once they start to read, they're so focused on decoding and reading all their sight words that when they actually read a story, they basically are reading a word list. And so many children have come here who are actually good readers. And they get everything wrong for comprehension because they just never thought of it. So I have them draw, and it only takes a few sessions. And eventually they start visualizing when they start reading. But it begins, I say, what happened at the beginning of the story, the middle, the end? Draw what you think will happen next. Okay, so, and here we gave like an example here. I'm showing what they do. The box 3 supposed to be bubbles, because what happens in that particular story is that Tiger makes a boat to be in a race in the pond on Tuesday Street out of soap. He makes a soap boat. And before you know it, the entire pond is filled with bubbles because the whole thing's coming apart, all the soap. And it's just, how did he come up with that idea? What would you have made? What type of boat? Why wasn't it a good idea? He's just learning, and they giggle because Tiger does all these silly things. It makes them feel good. For adults, as I said, I've used it with adults. I've used it with teenagers. 10, 11-year-olds, whoever just asked that last question, 4th grade, 5th grade, 10-year-olds, 11, they're fine. They are absolutely, they're fine with it, with the whole thing, because all they care about is starting to read. Okay, next, we took every story and put it in play form. So same words, they have the identical words, but now it's in script form. And you use that to improve fluency because they read the part over and over. And if you see their books, you see the two little girls' books. All this is right in our office because we actually made up scenery. We'd have to find it if you want the scenery for different stories. And we always put a microphone in front of them because they love talking into a microphone. But they take their highlighters again and they highlight. And they even say to me, give me your book. I'll highlight what you're going to be doing because I'm always part of it. I don't sit and watch them. Become part of it. You ask them to write something, say, you know what, I'm going to write it too. And we'll see if we come up with the same answer. And it just makes them feel the confidence starts to go up and that anxiety starts to go down. Okay, now let's go back and review again. Strong learning, reading, and writing resources are, you have your assessment, you have your workbooks, you have your games. These games, now what happened was I had just the beginning series of phonics, and I had so many calls from so many teachers that have been using them for years and years. And I said, please make up another list of new words for the same things. So I have two series, beginning series 1 and 2. And the beginning series 1 is the original, begins with rhyming for pre-readers, alphabet for pre-readers, beginning consonant sounds, consonant blends. And the card games look just like, it's just a deck of cards. Okay, that's all it is. It's a deck of cards. Here, this is an open deck. And it's just like regular playing cards, except here you have all the words. Everything, instead of having numbers on deck of cards, every deck is another phoneme or phonemic pattern. Then I put together fluency. So every word in these different decks, whether it's Y as a vowel or the soft and hard C and G, every word that's on these cards is in a sentence on the fluency. Okay, so there could be 6 words in a sentence, and some of them I made up really just silly sentences. Some of them are about a particular topic. It all depends the deck. The children are so fearful, and I don't know whether I'm sure you've had the same thing. They are so terrified of going into a book. I've had more kids look at my whole bookshelf. There's hundreds of books there. And I said, let's pick a book that we would like to read. And they go, oh, I think I've read all these because they don't want to read. They are so scared. So I found by putting them from the phonics cards, then into fluency cards, suddenly they're reading a sentence. And I have to tell you, the very beginning, they look at these fluency cards, say, no, I want to play the last game we played with just the word. And I say, well, let's try it. I'll read the sentences first. We don't even get through one Go Fish game, one memory game, and they're reading. They're fine. They forget about the anxiety and they just start reading because the confidence is there. So now we're going to talk about the games. Okay, it's just unlimited purposeful playful practice, and it's all game-based. And I began with this, oh my God, again, decades ago, because a little boy stood in my door, severe dyslexia. And not all of them have the dyslexia, as I said. It's only 1 in 5, but I seem to get a lot of students with it because I work with dyslexic kids. He stood in the doorway, bright red hair, and his mom's behind him, and he says, I'm not coming in. Now he was 7-year-old. I'm not coming in. If I have to read, I'm not coming in there. And don't tell me I have to write. So I said to him, remember his name was Peter. I actually remember him. And I said, Peter, would you play a game? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with them? And I grabbed the index cards and I cut them in half. And I started just with CVC words. Okay. And I made up hop, bit, and it made up all these. And we started playing memory. When his mom came to pick them up, he had learned so many words. And he said, Ma, I love it here. You don't have to read when you're here. You just play games. And that's what it was. And I give these to children to take home, to play at home. That's their homework, to play the games. And they come in the next week and the mothers go, oh my God, if I play one more game of Crazy Eights or one more bingo or one, because it doesn't matter. You pick the game they need. You pick the phoneme they're missing, but the child picks the game. And we give you directions for up to 15 different games you can play with every single deck. Why is it important? They need the practice. And the anxiety is so high that they will not, they don't want to go to the books. There's another message. Hold on, let me get my glasses. Okay. A comment from Liz. She writes, I have used many, if not all of your card games with students. They are fabulous and highly recommended. They build self-confidence for sure. Thank you, Liz. I'm not sure who you are, but thank you. That's nice. That's a nice thing. I have to say, over all the years, oh my God, the teacher's calling. One teacher called recently. Her district would not buy any of anything. So she bought the books and she bought the games. And she bought it. She said, you know what? I have a private tutoring practice I do. And she said, I'm here with these kids who are struggling. They're rolling their eyes, they're chewing gum on purpose. They don't show up. She said, I bought the games. They come running in now because they say, we're playing, which game we're going to play. And then they all fight over the games they want to play, but it's fine. It's not screen time. It's actually so helpful because the kids are now learning how to be with each other. They're socializing. Okay, so like this is Showdown. This game is so much fun. The picture in the middle, if you see the teachers in the back, what happens is you'd pick up one of the cards and you give each team, you have teams against each other, and you come up with it could be a fluency sentence. It could be you're doing or controlled, any of them. And I tell the teams, you strategize, decide, here's the deck for you, here's a deck for you. And you see, every deck comes with the 48 cards, 24 pairs. That's your 48 cards, 24 pairs. Okay, so I give 24, that one half to one team, the other to the other team. I'll come up with the word. Bird. And they have to, whichever team gets the card in the middle first gets the point. Okay, and so they're going crazy. And I tell them before we begin, come up with how you want to work as a team. It's been amazing. Some kids just, it's all over the place, the cards, and they're rolling over each other trying to find everything. Other teams, sometimes there's one student who organizes it, or they decide, hey, let's do this alphabetic. This is game-based learning. And it's, I can't tell you how great it is. By the way, this play, what they're playing here, the Showdown, there's no such game. I just came up with a name for it, Showdown. But I train teachers, and I was in a school once in Connecticut, and I have one group of teachers on one side of the desk, the other group, and I'm giving words. And there was a man in this group in elementary school, which is usually all these women, but this time there was a man, and this one woman on his team. She was so mad at him. She kept yelling at him. It's because of you that we're losing. The teachers would get into it no matter where I am. The teachers go crazy screaming to make sure their team wins. She's yelling at this poor man. And I figured, okay, I didn't figure, so I laughed and we made a joke of it. And finally, one of the teachers turns to her, she says, don't worry about it, it's her husband. So I said, okay, I had no idea why. So she says, no, it's just her husband. So that's fine. The teachers get crazy. Kids love it. But I would say begin if you're 8-year-olds and older. I did this with younger children. It actually was a dyslexia group I had one summer, and it was all mixed ages. And a little 7-year-old little boy walked up to me and he said, you've got to give me something else to do. I need another role in this game because I'm just getting too anxious over the whole thing. I can't handle it. And he was right. For 7-year-olds, it was very hard for them to figure this out. The older kids, 8 and up, it's fine. 10-year-olds, I mean, they get into it. They get serious about it. So that's Showdown. Now let's go. Now, I started doing all this, as I said, I cut up the index cards and I started realizing I could play memory. Then I can play Go Fish with the same cards. Then I realized I could play Crazy Eights. My husband and I sat here actually changing the directions a little because my main goal was for them to learn to read. And so we changed a little bit because one of the fathers called me one day. He says, I played those games all the time as a kid, and these are not the exact directions. I said, I don't care. And even cheat a little bit at home because the most important thing is that your child learns to read. Okay. And so when you read them, it may not be how you played, but I started researching game-based reading to learn how to read by games down at Hunter College in New York City. And I assume a lot of people here from the city or around suburbs or something from New York. They actually did a study in a bio class, and the professor made up card games. Literally, I looked into this whole study, very similar to what I was doing. And it was with a bio class. And they had one class, just the professor, regular lecture. The other class were playing card games. The people who played the card games learned it faster and retained it longer, which was it made me feel just fabulous. And then when I went online, go online, you'll see game-based learning. We then took the students, just a random group of kids that had come here, and we started testing them and seeing where they were. Whoop, we have another message. Question from Dina. The card games look really interesting. What are your thoughts on whether kids memorize the 24 words in a deck versus continuing to practice phonics skills in different words contexts? You can use it in different contexts. Let me go into that at the end. Okay, you can go in. That's why you have your books, because these words that are in the games are the same exact words that are in your workbooks. Same words. So you're going to be reading them in a story. You're going to be playing them in the activities. Same words.
Series
Okay.
covers that.
Now, what happened was that's why I came up with the series 2, all new words. The series 2, and then even the VCE, I made up 3 different decks. So now there's 4 decks from the original series 1, and then there are 3 different VCE decks in series 2. We saw that the kids, once they memorize them, then you just move on. You just move on, and they can make up their own games. Once they know it, give them the index cards. Let them start making it up. It's almost like metacognition. They're thinking about what they're thinking about, and they're not just sitting filling in workbook pages. Okay, even one of the games is the VCE, I have the pair, because everyone is matching the pair. You have to say, I have hop, do you have hop? I have green, do you have green? But in my VCE, one of the decks, it says, I have hop, do you have hope? I have fine, do you have fin? And one little girl sitting here one day, she was 4th grader, and she turned to me and she said, that's what they've been talking about? She said, I never understood what they kept saying. You go from hop to hope. Okay, put the E on, but she had to now process it. You know yourself, if you're sitting learning something, no matter what the teacher says over and over, they could say it a million times. If you don't process it, nothing's going to happen, because you're playing Go Fish and you want the pair because you want to win. And kids want to play games and they want to win. And you're playing with a group, so you're socializing. It's just so much fun watching them. But she had to know the E is there. So now she needed the one with the E, which was hope. She had to say it right to get the card, to get the pair. They start thinking. They have to start thinking. Okay, what the games do, they follow Orton Gillingham, are game-based, they reduce anxiety, they increase focus, they empower the student. And again, unlimited, purposeful, playful practice. To learn something, you have to practice it enough. With driving, riding a bike, you've got playing ball. You have to practice. And kids who are struggling in reading don't want to practice. It's too hard. Comment from Liz. The practice in different contexts makes kids learn without memorization. They rely on their phonics skills. Thank you, Liz. I've got to meet you. Guys, I'm so glad you're using it and you see what it is. Okay, now, does it matter which games they play? There are 15 different games they can play. Does it matter which one? No. I've tried it with, I had certain kids that would come in here. They only play memory, but it doesn't matter because they're playing it over and over and over again. Go Fish seems to be the most popular. They love Go Fish. I started playing kids with gin rummy, and instead of 4 cards, it's 2, 2, and 2. Okay, and they have to get 3 pairs. Great, by the way. Most of these kids who struggle in reading don't know the multiplication facts. Wonderful, the multiplication facts. I have card games for the math. They learn because they have to get the 3 pairs. And they're going to get 6 times 3, and they know the pair is 18. Okay, question from Dara. Do you have to go in sequential order or skip around depending on what you find upon assessment? Fabulous question. Absolutely skip around if you want. Oh, the child is telling you what they need. Go by what each child needs. And so you can definitely skip around. I would say if you work, because I had kids over the years, I've tested this out so much, and I have so many tutors that work for me who are testing it, going and telling me, all the feedback. And schools, I've had so many teachers calling me what they've done. I had one little girl, she just loved writing all the activities. She loved to sit and do the writing, which was fine. She had a twin sister who wouldn't touch the book, but she loved Crazy Eights, that game, or the monster card. But that, because she just loved those games. They both learned to read, so it doesn't matter which one. And what we've done is we put together a grid. It's right on our website. And you just look, we give you the different games, the 15 games, the ages, the number of players, whether it's ideal in school, with teams, at home, remotely, and we tell you which games are good for. You can just always refer to this.
They don't have to learn.
Okay,
and they don't have to learn them all.
Oh yeah, my husband said you don't have to learn about all these games. We just kept coming up with them. Just pick any game and let them decide the games. You, by doing the assessment, you're going to know what phoneme they need. Okay, here's the game memory. And most of you probably remember it. You just turn them over and you do 2 at a time, putting them back in the exact place. Okay. If it's a school system or someone and you need me to come in, or we do it on Zoom, we do training, which it's just a lot of fun. As I said, the teachers get so into it, and before you know it, they're all screaming and yelling, I won. Okay. Okay, now there's the QR code on the bottom, and you can put your phones right to it, and you'll get all the directions. You get all the directions. So that's memory. The Go Fish is popular. The Go Fish kids love, and that you both get 5 cards. Now, in Go Fish, it's usually the pairs, and you count them at the end. What I did here, after playing and testing this and testing it, I have it where it's the child who's left with no cards. They say, I win. They have no cards left, because they wouldn't give their cards. Someone would say, I have skip. Do you have skip? And if they had it, they held on to it because they wanted to get it from the other person. This way, they want to give it away because that means they have 1 less card. So that's how we cheated a little bit, but it helped because it's helping them play the game and helping them keep playing. Okay, there's gin rummy, and you see, and they're older, and they're having so much fun, but they're so involved in it, and that's why they learn. Okay, the bingo. I love. And the whole reason is I put this together so there's your encoding. I would always begin with 9 square, especially if they're little. Don't begin with 25 square until 8. Even though I had a 6-year-old little girl one day say to me, "Can we play with more squares?" And we did, and she did just fine. So you have to know your student. Go by your child, whoever you're working with. And you have the word list, right? Is in every card deck. There's a word list right in it. I take it, some of them we've already enlarged. You can download them from our website. Otherwise, you can just take them, enlarge them, copy them, give every child the word list. They make up their own bingo board. And you tell them as you write in the word, cross it off on your list. And then when you play bingo, they made up the whole bingo board. And they'll usually say, "Can we play again?" And they tear up their board and they go, "I didn't win, so I guess it wasn't done right." And they do it again. Okay, I had one boy with severe dysgraphia. He wouldn't hand in anything in school. He wouldn't put his name on anything. He wouldn't write. And I said to him, "It doesn't matter. No one's going to see it. Here's the list. Copy the letters. Just copy them and read them as you copy you. And I'm going to say words and you'll know." He loved the game. He played over and over and he kept writing them. He started learning the words. He started writing. I can't say it went into school because they're so afraid because they're going to be judged and they're going to start getting grades. And mom and dad are going to go ballistic and then they're embarrassed. And there we go with the anxiety again. So this helps. It helps with that anxiety. Here we go. We just filled it out, just showing you like the 9 square bingo. This is the words with the VC blends. We use, here we actually use little chips. They can just put X's. If they write on it, they have to redo them again because but if they don't write on them and they use chips or pennies or candies, whatever you want to use, you can use them over and over again. Let's go to, there's your 25 square. That's what they look like. Okay, just to review, we have 15 minutes left, so we'll have enough time for more questions if anyone has any. Just to review, the benefits compared with other programs. And I'm saying you don't have to buy this program. You can take any structured literacy program you're using, and it just enhances it because you get the same words in the games and in the workbooks. And that's all it is. And you get the assessment so that you can figure out specifically what that child is missing. Because if I had a child here and it was the silent letters was fudge, bridge, and he just didn't know where he was. And he said, "We're doing this in school now." And then when I tested him, he didn't have the CVC. He didn't have, so in school, and he was doing, which I don't want to mention, well, Wilson, but he was in a group. So they just keep moving. You're like on a conveyor belt. It's kind of hard. If any of you are tutors, you're working one-to-one, small group, it's ideal for tier 2 and tier 3 students. That's where, because we've done research nationwide to figure where are they in the schools. Huge amount in tier 2 and tier 3. Okay, what are the benefits? Number 1, includes game-based learning and plays. Kids love to be in plays. They're standing in someone else's shoes. Everything is multicultural in this whole program. You saw all the characters. One little girl said to me one day, "Are they all adopted?" By the way, I didn't tell you the actual story, Tale of Tiger Tuesday, how all these characters came about. You go right on our website you just go to stronglearning.com and look up the Tale of Tiger Tuesday. I think it's also on Amazon. I think it's also there. Oh, also, that's what my husband reminded me. If you go to YouTube, there's an actual video of the story. And it tells the children, so now they know where the setting is, why it happened, why does the family look like that. I must tell you, we wrote it years and years and years ago and sent it to Disney. And I'll never forget, I was washing the dishes and they called, literally calls before cell phones. And they said, we have your story. We only use in-house, that we only do everything in-house. But we love this story so much. I'm literally going to be sending it back with a form letter, but I'm calling to tell you, don't throw away the story. Don't, she said, use this story. And so we used it for the characters in all our reading books. And the kids love them. It aligns with the structured literacy program because it follows Orton Gillingham. May be purchased individually or as a program, or you can create your own program. Just call me and tell me what you need, and I'll tell you what to buy. Teachers, they can create individual reading programs to match each student's specific needs. Reduces students' anxiety while increasing the focus. It's no magic pill. It's not magic. They're children. And I don't care if the struggling readers, as I said, are teenagers, adults, they're nervous and they don't want to get anything wrong. And once you're nervous, those dendrites will shrink. There is no focusing. Anxiety and ADD have the same symptoms. Same, very, very similar symptoms. So I've had kids coming in here that are classified dyslexic, and I'll say they're not. This is total anxiety. Okay, you don't know. You really have to know when you're working with a child what's happening. But in either case, you've got to reduce that anxiety, and they have to learn the phonics. Provides unlimited purposeful, playful practice, which I've said over and over. It promotes socialization, which is so desperately needed. There's no screen time. I'm not against screen time. But there's a time and a place. The children must also, human beings are social animals. There must be socialization, and this program includes socialization. And it's cost effective because that ad on TV, that insurance ad, whichever one it is, you only pay for what you need. You don't have to pay $10,000 for some program. Everything's here. And if school's already paid thousands and thousands, you can just use it as a supplement just to enhance any other program. Thank you all for coming here. And again, any questions, there are always people here. Just call and we will definitely call you back. So thank you all again.